So it's the end of another month, and I thought, why not do like a movie, TV show review to just show you what I've been watching and what I liked and what I didn't like. So before you watch this video, proceed with caution because obviously there's gonna be spoilers. And yeah, let's get going. So the first show that I watched this month was Motorheads, which I really liked. It came out on Prime on May 20th, and it was really, really good. So it's about these twins that return to their mom's hometown, and their dad was a racer, and he was involved in a bank robbery, and he disappeared, and no one knows where he is. And the town has their like racing scene, and I really, really liked it because, you know, the kind of show or movie that just sucks you into that universe and makes you forget everything around you. That's the kind of show that Motorheads is. And just the storyline really like sucks you in. Um, what I didn't really like about it was that you can't really tell, like obviously the main characters are Caitlin and Zach and maybe their uncle Logan and their mom. Well, the more the season has gone on, the more focus was put on the side characters, which I thought was really confusing because you weren't really sure what to focus on. So you got the backstory of Brooke and of Kiara and of Harris, and it was really hard to follow because you couldn't really tell if this was an ensemble cast or if there was like just a core group, which I thought was Marcel, Curtis, Caitlin, and Zach. So I think they did that to just kind of shine a spotlight on every character, but you have to kind of choose one way to go with. So you either have to focus on every character or just like a very specific group of characters. I wrote the callback to the past was a bit cringe, but I can't really remember. That one scene that I really, really liked was the scene in the past where the mom called Logan and asked him where Christian was, and then that song came on, and it was really good. Generally, I didn't really like the soundtrack because it sounded like they just put every like song that was on the charts in it. But that scene was really memorable, and I really liked it. It was just like, whoa, so exciting, and what happened, and you want to know more. I noticed that the acting was really cringe at times. I've only really noticed it with Brooke's character. I don't know her actress, so I'm not sure if this was her like, so if this was her first gig or I don't know. Her delivery was kind of weird at times, and you could tell that it was rehearsed. And yeah, but that's just like nagging on a very high level. It was only one season, so I watched it in like a couple of days. It was 8 episodes, and we don't know if it has a second season or if it's gonna have a second season. And that season left on such a big cliffhanger. Everyone who's watched it wants to know what happens next. I'm really, really hoping that there's gonna be a second season, but Prime doesn't really have the best track with continuing seasons, so we'll see. I give Motorhead a rating of 8 out of 10, which I think is really good. Okay, so the second TV show I watched wasn't really a TV show that I watched during May, but I finished it, which is SWAT. I think I watched it when it first came out. Shamar Moore left Criminal Minds, and I really, really liked the core group. So Tan, Deacon, Hondo, Street, Luca, and Chris. And I think I stopped watching when Chris left because they really built a good group and like a family with those characters. When Chris chose to leave, it kind of left a really big hole in the group, and they kind of tried to fill that hole, but it didn't really work. It took them, I think, a good 2 seasons until they got a good ensemble cast again, and then they were cancelled and then were picked up again. So I think it was kind of hard for the show to get a good track going. But I did like how they kept referring back to the characters even though they have left, because you know, in real life the actors have left, but in the universe they just like quit the job and they're generally still in their lives. So I really like how they kept talking about Chris or Chris and Street. and sometimes about Luca, because I know other TV shows that just kind of don't even write off the character, they just disappear and you never talk about them again, which I don't really like because that character was an integral part of the show, so you kind of have to acknowledge it somehow. So yeah, so the eighth season was the last season, and even though it was the last season and they knew it and they had enough time to write a good ending, I feel like the season was really anticlimactic. And I also didn't really like how Luca and Street were just written off. I liked how they were written off. Like Street left to go to Long Beach PD, and he said he was gonna get engaged to Chris. And Luca was shot. He couldn't return to active duty, but I don't get it. Like, it was the last season. Why can't you just keep the characters on? Because I think Street was one of the main reasons why I watched. Like, Chris and Street, I really like those characters. I really like Tan too. And then Miko or Miguel. I didn't like him at first, but you warmed up to him. He was cute, he was sweet. And yeah, so that was really nice to finally finish a TV show that I've been watching for such a long time but then stopped. And I gave SWAT a rating of a 7.5 out of 10. Now let's talk movies. First movie I watched is Heart Eyes, which came out in February, actually on Valentine's Day, I think. So it's a slasher movie, so a slasher horror thriller where there's a killer. He's called, I'm not sure what he's called again. He basically kills couples on Valentine's Day. I really like the premise and I really like the actress. I only knew about the movie because I like Olivia Holt, and Mason Cooting is also really cool, and they're the main reason why I watched it. The movie was very, very gory. Some of the death scenes were crazy. Like, I couldn't even watch it because it was so brutal. I also really liked the humor. Like, the script was good. It is kind of predictable, but maybe that's just the English major in me. Especially because you know that Jordana Brewster is kind of a big actor, and if she's in that movie and she's just like a plain old detective, you can tell that there's more behind her character. Another thing that I noticed was she mentioned the straw, her metal straw that she always took wherever she went. Like, it was, I think it was talked about like 2 minutes in after her character was introduced. She always has like this metal straw because she doesn't like paper straws, and it was mentioned so many times, and I just knew it was gonna be used as a weapon or kind of like her main tool in the climax, and it was. So I feel like you can do it a little less in your face and do it like, oh, it's a straw. Because I think it was like mentioned 4 or 5 times in a movie. They talked about the straw in a movie 5 times, which is crazy to me. Anyways, I gave Heart Eyes a rating of 7 out of 10. The second movie I watched was Venom: The Last Dance, which is crazy to me because I didn't even know that there was a third movie. I was just like scrolling on Netflix, and then I saw the movie and I was like, what? I, I knew there was like the second movie with Woody Harrelson, but like a third movie? I didn't even know that it was out. I didn't even know that they were filming, and it was just on Netflix, so it means it has to be like, it had to be out for a while. But I watched it. I like Eddie and I like Venom. I like their relationship, and the the beginning part of the movie was kind of a bit long. It stretched on and was kind of boring at times. The antagonist in the movie was super scary. I was really scared because the way he was introduced and everything was just dark and his voice was so scary. I had to pause the movie at times. I really also liked the symbiote army because because Noel had to get the codex, I think. The codex was only carried within Eddie and Venom because they fused together when Eddie died in the movie before. So Noel sent out like monsters to retrieve that, and I thought that the other symbiotes would try to kill Venom and Eddie because that was the only reason to kill the Codex. But they actually formed together as an army and fought against the beasts, which I thought was really cool, which I didn't expect. I like Christmas, the character. I think her name was Sadie. She was really nice, and she showed like compassion towards the symbiotes. And what I didn't really understand was the family who wanted to see Area 51. I didn't really understand what their point was. They didn't really have a point for the plot. Like the only thing that I noticed was that Eddie bonded with the son, and they had to be saved, so they didn't really push the plot forward. They were just kind of there. And I was watching the movie and I saw the family and I was like, oh my god, that's Otto Hightower, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, the ending was super sad because clearly, if the villain is after like the Codex thing that is within Venom and Eddie, there was no way that both of them would survive. And Venom sacrificed himself to kill the beasts, and he saved Eddie. And Eddie then goes to New York, which they both wanted to do, which I thought was really sweet. But the post-credit scene showed or hinted at Venom still being alive because it fused with the Roach. So maybe there's gonna be another movie with Venom and Eddie reuniting. I don't know, but I really liked the movie. I think I liked it more than the second one, but I can't remember the second one. A fair judgment. I gave Venom a 7.5 out of 10. Another movie I rewatched was Bumblebee because it's leaving Netflix, or it left Netflix last night, and it's such a good movie. Like I really really like that movie. I think it's one of the best Transformers movies. So it's the prequel of how Bumblebee came to Earth and how he got his name, and I really liked the storyline, and it was really easy to connect with the main character, and you wanted to root for her and you wanted her to achieve her dreams and her goals. I didn't really get the point of the love interest because he didn't really did anything for the plot. He didn't push the plot forward. He was just there to be a love interest. But yeah. The soundtrack was fire. Haley Steinfeld wrote a song for it. And yeah, I really liked the movie. It was sad at the end because Bumblebee and Charlie had to part ways, but it was very sweet. I really liked the movie. And I wish there was a second one, but I'm not sure how that would work because their story kind of has been told, so yeah. But I do love Haley Steinfeld in the movie. The last movie that I watched in May was Final Destination Bloodlines. It came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. I watched it in the movie theater 3 days ago. And yeah, I think this is the second Final Destination movie that I've watched. I think I've watched the second one, and generally I know what it's about. So basically, one person has a vision of their death and they want to save people, and by that they cheated death, so death comes after them in very brutal ways. So this movie is very, very brutal and very gory. One person had a vision of her death and like everyone around her, and it was like a big event with a lot of people that were supposed to die. So death came after these people and after all of their bloodlines because it took death a while to follow the chronological order of the deaths, and yeah, it was very crazy. I wrote that the casting was questionable because the main character was Latina, I think. Her brother looked Asian or white. Her father was Asian and her mother was white. Like, how does an Asian man and a white woman make a Latina daughter? That doesn't make sense to me. The storyline was also really predictable, but my brother said that is like the point of a Final Destination movie, that you can see the signs, but the characters don't see it. Um, and for me, it was really hard to connect with the characters and care for their deaths, especially like her cousins. I didn't really like her family. I like Bobby, but I didn't really like Julia and her uncle because they were so dislikable. But maybe that was the point. I'm not sure. We don't really have to watch the other Final Destination movies to understand the last one, but I think it would be nice to have like all the Easter eggs. There were small Easter eggs that I recognized, but still. The death of the last two characters was kind of unnecessary. I thought the movie would end with like Stephanie having a vision and then just like the movie ending and having a big cliffhanger, which would be picked up in the next movie. But they kind of just died, like with the trees as well, with the tree stumps, which I should have expected because there was a lot of promo involving those tree stumps and on TikTok. So the callback to that was kind of crazy. I gave Final Destinations a rating of 6 out of 10. Alright, yeah, that was what I watched in May. I hope you liked it, and I hope you'll maybe watch the movies or the TV shows if it has piqued your interest. I will try to watch a lot of movies and TV shows next month. And yeah, see you next time.